It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I was at work. I was sitting in a conference call called Flash Meeting with another remote city. That was a monthly meeting that took place every second working day of every month. I was supposed to explain some large variances in the stock for that multinational company that I was working for at that time. I was extremely nervous and anxious because simply I didn't know what I was doing and what I was dealing with. My turn came to start presenting the variances. Obviously, I was not giving proper explanations. And the more I was vague in my explanation, the more I was getting challenged with difficult questions that I could not answer. To my luck, even the individuals who normally do not interact decided to ask me a question in that meeting. When I was done with the grilling session and the team in the other city started presenting, I leaned back on my chair, furious and frustrated with my poor performance. And then I started cursing the individuals who were challenging me for the first time ever. Until I realized that the microphone was not on mute. Everyone on the conference call has heard me. Silence for a minute, as you can imagine, has dominated the conference call. And I decided simply to get out of the meeting and take a walk. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt that you are fake? That you fear that someone is going to discover your true identity as an imposter? That you don't know what you are doing or what you are talking about? Ever since that incident, I have had this inner negative voice in my head that I call the imposter, that constantly reminds me that soon enough, someone, somewhere, somehow, will discover my true identity. And as this voice gets louder over time, I start to feel more and more vulnerable and insecure. And I compensate that by overworking myself with long hours and thorough preparation. Eventually, I moved to another country with a new company. I wanted to experience moving overseas and becoming an expatriate. And I thought that once I moved to a new country, I would have a fresh start, a new mindset, and perhaps find fulfillment through a new career, and possibly get rid of the imposter voice within me. You know, they say, careful what you wish for. I ended up living in 5 countries and finally declared myself the title of the professional nomad. That lifestyle kept me numb for a while. In fact, 10 years. But at some point, the charm of that global lifestyle started to fade. They say you can't sugarcoat a turd and call it candy, right? I realized that the job that I had was making me miserable, and that the imposter voice kept getting louder the higher I climbed up the corporate ladder. From that experience, I also realized that as long as you do not align your values with your career or job, you can only be attracted for a while by that dazzle of the golden cage that the company placed you in. Eventually, you will start feeling this burning sensation that reminds you that you simply are not fulfilled. From that point, I decided that I wanted to follow a new dream, a dream of becoming an entrepreneur. So I ended up leaving my corporate career and jumping into the world of entrepreneurship. In my case, it was solopreneurship. I could not think of a tangible ways of commercializing my corporate skills, and I was quite passionate about helping people find the right career. So I simply decided to call myself a business and career coach. And I thought that the 130 hours of coach training that I received was going to set me up for success. But I wasn't prepared. And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. See, not having enough experience in product creation, marketing, and sales, and without having the safety blanket of the financial stability, I ended up with a complete burnout. But I worked really, really, really hard. And I managed eventually to recruit a pool of clients where I was coaching them on their careers. That was quite an interesting experience, that's for sure, as I have learned actually a lot about myself through their coaching. The most important thing that I have learned is that all of them and me are looking for fulfillment outside of ourselves. The next job, the next career that will help me find my purpose. We often plan and have goals for escaping the prison that we have found ourselves in, always trying to catch up or get ahead so that someday we can have the life that we really want. It's the life that we are planning for or planning to have. As soon as, fill in the blank, we find the career we love, the misery will end. We find out what we really finally want. We are constantly focused on our goals as the means of fulfillment. You know, the thing, the answer, the solution is always invested with the power to grant fulfillment or happiness to us. And actually, this puts emphasis in the wrong place. Fulfillment is not something that you can get or own. It is something you must live. I also learned that it starts with knowing thyself. Now I know that this sounds like a cliche. Not until I came across this question that I heard once on a podcast. Knowing yourself, your inner talk, the way you address yourself. Would you marry you? After pondering on this question a lot, I realized that I am quite harsh on myself. I really do not have internal peace. I'm constantly running after a goal to fulfill a void. And I never thought about the void itself as the root cause of the lack of my inner peace. I then went into a self-discovery journey and lots of therapy sessions to learn what is behind that negative self-talk that I have within me. Why am I so harsh on myself? It took me all the way back to my childhood, of course, and my negative relationship with my mother. This is when I realized that I am always considering I'm missing something in my life because I was never enough in the eyes of my mother. At least this is what I believed. I didn't receive the unconditional love and the unconditional attention that I needed as a child. Hence why I am constantly looking for something outside of me, and in my case, a career that would fill this void. Not believing that I am enough has also obviously nurtured the imposter syndrome within me. I don't deserve to be where I am. I don't deserve what I have. I just got lucky. I figured that I needed to think in a different way about how can I go about resolving all this stuff. My therapist then introduced me to the sieve concept. See, by constantly looking for external validation to fill a void that I had, such as the next accolade in my career, I was pouring water into a sieve. I could never be fulfilled until I can internally fulfill all the emotions that I had been deprived of right from childhood. Until I realize that I am enough just the way I am. To start finding self-worth again, I decided that to go back into the timeline of my life and start with my childhood. The idea was to identify, to the best of my ability and memory, the moments when I felt emotions of being rejected, unworthy, or even a failure, and then to get the adult version of me now to rekindle a sense of worthiness and completeness. I heard once Tony Robbins say that the future is 2 millimeters away. This means that the solution is not overnight. It will need to be worked on every day, at least through a small effort, baby steps, as those tiny little steps will add up. A week from now, a month from now, a year from now. I also heard once that knowing the roots of your problem, what you're dealing with, are 50% of the solution. I know that the roots of my imposter syndrome is the lack of self-worth. And I also know now that my career will not bring me self-worth, and therefore I will never feel on purpose in my career until I fix my relationship with me. Until, ladies and gentlemen, I decide to marry me.